Good evening. So you join me on my first night on Oxlease. Nice quick drive down, and got to the lake around about sort of 1 o'clock. I've had a walk around, and actually one of the first guys I came to, he was playing a fish, landed it whilst I was there, and it was a nice £25 mirror, beautiful scale pattern on its tail, and that was at the top end, sort of near the island, and there seemed to be a lot of fish down that end. There was a lot of fizzing, a lot of bubbling. He'd just cast some fizzing fish and ended up with a fish. So I carried on walking around the lake, and I've come to the road bank side, pretty much as you come into the lake on your right hand side, and I've seen a lot of fizzing down this end as well. And looking at the weather forecast, the wind's meant to change direction, come to a southeasterly wind, which is going to push down this end as well, and that's meant to start tomorrow. So I've seen some fizzing fish, and I've had a mark around and found a nice area which is actually some gravel, but it's on the verge of a gravel and silt spot. So and I'm on my side of the silt spot, so it's gravel going onto the silt, and I've got 3 rigs out there. I've actually got a 5-foot zig on the left hand rod at just over 11.5 wraps. I've got a vortex wafter, barrel wafter on my alternate D rig on the middle rod, and on my right hand rod I have one of my homemade pop-ups. I've opted for the aniseed and almond one on that one, on a reverse combi link. Fished over 5 spodfuls of bait, so I am filling it in to start off with. I am potentially here for 5 days, but I'm just going to take it slow and steady. Apparently it hasn't been fishing very well, so I don't want to kill my chances before I've even started. So I've only put 5 impact spodfuls out, and I'm just going to top it up with 3 every hour and just slowly build up the swim. I've already had a few fish crashing nearby, probably 2 rod lengths off my spot, and there's still lots of fizzing fish, and with that wind direction change I'm hoping that they're going to start pushing down this end. So it's now 20 past 5. I'll be spotting again 6 o'clock on the hour, every hour, and we'll see where we go from there. But I'm going to do a couple of live videos whilst I'm here on the evenings. I'm going to do one tomorrow night, so one on Wednesday evening and one on Friday evening as well. But with 5 nights at my disposal, I'm planning on obviously fishing Oxlease for that duration, but if I feel that a move is necessary, maybe onto another lake or even just around the lake, obviously I will be doing so. St John's is apparently fishing really well at the moment, and a few fish are coming out of Manor, so depending on how I've got on here before the end of the week, I might move over onto one of them too. But you know, it's the sort of I've got my rigs out now. It's just that waiting game that we all love, really, waiting for the one toner. So I'll speak to you later on this evening. So you join me on day 2. It's now 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Nothing during the night, unfortunately. A bit disappointed, but I hadn't seen any other signs of fish, so it meant I got a good night's sleep, I guess. Woken up this morning at about 6:30, and just watch the water. Seen plenty of fizzing out at around about the sort of 90-yard mark, so I've actually brought in my right hand rod for that spot and cast that out with a pink signature pop-up on the Alt D rig, and sort of I've left that there until about an hour ago, and unfortunately nothing doing still. So I've had a bit of a change. I've decided that I want to be sort of, actually fishing in that silt patch. So I've had another lead around, and it's really firm silt. It's nice and smooth, but it's off that gravel, and it's sort of in the middle of that silt patch. It's about a rod length wide going away from me, and I've decided to stick 2 rigs on that. So I've got in the middle rod, I've got a Vortex pop-up on a reverse combi rig, and on the right hand rod I've got a Vortex wafter tipped with beetling soaked corn, and then left hand rod I've now switched down to an 8-foot zig, yellow aligner with black foam. I've sent out 6 spodfuls, and I've seen fish actually crashing near the area. One actually crashed in probably only 20 yards in front of the peg as well, and that southwesterly is coming nicely. It's blowing, it's caused a ripple on the water, so hopefully they're following that wind and coming down this end. Hopefully tonight I'll do my live chat, as long as the data will allow. Let me just turn off my kettle. Time for lunch. Yeah, as long as my data's going to allow, because the signal's quite poor, but hopefully we'll get that live chat done, but hopefully before then we'll have a carp grace my net, and I'll go through rigs and of what I'm doing, and hopefully show you how I tie up my reverse combi rig. So until maybe the live chat, we'll just keep watching the water. So you join me on day 3. It's 12 in the afternoon, and unfortunately I've had another quiet night. I left one rig where the fish were crashing yesterday, a yellow signature pop-up on a short reverse combi rig, and nothing doing, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm surprised that a bite hasn't come from that area. A guy who is fishing down to my right, he's been fishing near the spot as well. He had one run in the middle of the night, and unfortunately lost it due to hook pull, but that's it. So to say the amount of fish activity that was there, it's been quiet. I've just recast all the rods with fresh baits on for the day. I'm not going to feed out anymore for the time being, because I've not had a bite on the area, and so I would have thought there'll still be a lot of bait there, and I don't just want to keep on putting new bait on top of old bait. So plan of action for today is just sort of keep an eye on the water, and I'm just going to leave my rigs in, basically. I've got the left hand rod on a double pop-up corn. I've got my middle rod on a standard bottom bait tipped with plastic corn, and then right hand rod I've recast to that area again where the fish were showing, with a white signature wafter on an Alt D rig. So I've played around with the rig as well this morning. It's a little bit of a take on a D rig, but I've used a soft coated braid with a little bit of shrink tubing as well, and it seems to be turning, the hook seems to be turning quite well in my hand every time. So I've got that out on my middle rod, because whether I'm just getting done, I don't know, but you know, the rigs were out there for best part of 12 hours, and nothing's happening. And I don't know if you've seen any of the Corda underwater videos, but you could just be getting done. There could be fish there just getting done and I'm just not hooking them. So maybe it was time for a rig change to see if that changes anything. But for now, I'm going to grab myself a little bit of lunch. The wind seems to have died down a little bit and it's changed to an easterly, but it is set to change back to a southerly again, which will hopefully keep the fish down this end. I've got tonight and potentially another night, maybe two, but I'll see how we're going on and whether a moves around the lake is an option maybe. So until then, speak to you soon. So I finally managed to land one. Just cast to some showing fish, trimmed down a pink signature wafter on a little bit of a sort of experimental rig for me. Just got her in now, so let's go get her weighed. So I've already got the scales already zeroed. Let's see how we get on. She's weighed in at 32 and a half. 32 and a half pounds. Buzzing, come on. So we double checked her, 32.10 she went. Pristine mirror, well chuffed. New PB for me as well. Really happy. Let's let her go. Thank you very much, my love. Oh, proper buzzing. Come on. Waded out into the water, just about to cast, and I've looked down and noticed that my left hand rod's line pulling quite high out of the water, and I could hear a subtle beeping tone and ticking noise as well. Left hand rod absolutely tearing off. So I brought the rod, I haven't even casted, I've just brought the rod back in, come out of the water, picked it up, and after a short fight landed a 19.10 mirror. So second fish of the session, chuffed to bits, and it's come off my 55 yard spot, which is sitting on the silt. Really hoping now that that they're on that spot. So all I've literally done is I've unhooked the fish, I've rebaited again, pink signature wafter, I've sent out some bait and I've sent out the rig as well. Here's hoping that the reds are down on it and we get a few more for the evening. But after casting that, I then noticed a fish crash just off to my right, It's around about sort of, I don't know, 35-40 yards. So the rig that was going to be going in the reed line has been sent out to that, and let's see if there's any fish there as well. I've still got my right hand rod on the spot at 11 wraps, so 44 yards, and that was where I'd caught the fish from yesterday, that 3210 from yesterday. I've baited it with just boilie and hemp and crushed boilies, and I've just slowly trickled it in. I haven't put a load out, but the lake isn't fishing anywhere near as well as I think everyone would hope it would be. There has apparently been 4 40s out this week so far, but not many people are catching, so I'm keeping the baiting light-ish, and I've just got a pink signature wafter over that as well, because that seems to be the bait that's been doing the damage, especially catching those 2 fish. The rig that I've been using, I'm going to do a video on how to tie it. Both times that the fish have been hooked, it's been about an inch back on the bottom lip, so I'm getting a good firm hook hold, especially that 1910. There was no way that was coming off, so pleased with that rig so far. So I'm going to do a video of how to tie that, but for now, few fish have just started crashing, and I'm just going to keep my eye on the water, have a spot of tea, and then get my head down for the night, because it is drawing in very quickly. 8 o'clock, it's dark. By 8:30 I'm tired and I'm ready to go to bed, and that's it really. Wake up nice and early to watch the water. So until tomorrow, fingers crossed we have a few more. Second fish of the session came from a tearing run off the long spot that I've been feeding since day 2, and she went 1910. Okay, beautiful. Look at that scale pattern on the tail. Beautiful. See her off. Thank you, my love. Awesome. Day 5, Saturday, another uneventful night. So unfortunately the fish obviously hadn't got onto that spot after where I'd caught from yesterday. Really disappointed really. I thought after getting 1 fish on it, I thought they'd obviously found it, and they were going to keep coming back. I kept the bait topped up on that spot to try and keep them interested, and unfortunately nothing doing. So I've just taken a break in the wind, because it is blowing an absolute hoolie since this morning. Southerly wind, really warm though, but it's absolutely, yeah, it's almost like typhoon weather, but it's not. It is for Britain anyway. And yeah, another quiet night. A lad has popped in to the peg to my right. Really nice lad. He's actually a young lad who fished this for the BYCAC earlier, a couple of months back here, and he's noticed a few fish down in that corner, and he's cast out. He's also had one on a gravel spot that sort of runs round the corner from that peg, which is nice to know about for any future visits. And he's had a 32.8 off it already, so new PB for him. I've also had a new PB as well this week, so PBs all around. But today's plan of action is just keep the rigs in the water, I think, for today, and I hope that something comes along back to the spots. You know, I've caught fish off both spots, and I'm hoping that they're just going to come back to see if there's any bait there, and obviously I've kept it topped up, so there's food there for them if they want it. I've got the left-hand rod on the 13.5 wrap spot. That's baited with a pink signature wafter. Like I said yesterday, that's the bait that's caught me the 2 fish. My middle rod, I've stuck out a hinge stiff rig with a white signature pop-up, and my right hand rod is a pink signature wafter on that DF rig. I'm going to do a video today, like I said yesterday, on how I'm tying that rig. Oh, bit of rain now as well, just to boot. And on how I'm tying that rig, so that if you do want to put it into your fishing, you can. But apart from that, really, it's just a case of watching the water, as always, and I'm writing in my diary as well for the visit, and hopefully we'll have a few more fish to show you. So I'll speak to you soon. Final day, and again, nothing to report during the night, unfortunately. I have got that rig video to show you, so that'll come at the end of this video, as well as pictures of the fish. And after last night's activity, I'm really surprised, out of all the days that I've been here, that nothing's occurred last night. I've even spoken to the lad to my right, and he's saying exactly the same, that the amount of activity, it was almost as though someone turned on a switch and fish were just boshing left, right and centre. There was fizzing. As soon as the wind died down yesterday, it went nuts, and I kept the left-hand rod on that 13 wrap spot. I kept the right-hand rod on the 11.5 wrap spot. Middle rod I sent out onto showing fish. Left it for an hour. Nothing was doing. The fizzing had stopped around that bit. It had moved, so I brought it in, sent it out to another patch of fizzing all around it. Still nothing. And I've had 2 fish this week. One of them's a new PB, and I'm really happy that, you know, that I've caught. But part of me does feel I should have had more fish. Really do. The amount of activity that there's been on both spots, I would have thought fish would have been on them. Now, I aren't saying that fish haven't been on the spots and they haven't been feeding. I could have just been done. You know, they just might have ignored my hook bait completely. I've tried a lot of options. I've now got on left-hand rod, I've got on a short reverse combi link a vortex pop-up. On middle rod, I've got a vortex pop-up on a short reverse combi rig again, and right-hand rod on the camotex soft DF rig. I need a new name for that, really, because the DF is obviously for the guy who made it, so we'll come up with a new name for that. I've got 2 pieces of beetling soaked plastic corn. So one thing I've noticed from bringing in from the spots, even with the wafters, the bottom of the baits have been darkening off, so there, you know, I am obviously fishing in silt, and it's penetrating into the baits, so but it's not making them smell bad. That's, you know, it's not stinky silt at all. It's you know, it's obviously quite clean, and whether they're just not feeding in the silt, you know, both fish I've caught, the mouths haven't been black or anything like that, as though they've been feeding in the silt. But you know, it's whether they're just sort of lightly grazing over it, or if they are on that gravel. I may have made the mistake of not fishing over the gravel, but sometimes I think gravel spots just get overfished. Lad to my right, he hasn't had anything else, like I said, during the night. He's as surprised as I am. And speaking to the bailiff this morning, it looks as though the whole complex is quiet. There's been a few fish out of manor, but that's all. So we're slowly starting to pack up now. It started raining at 2 o'clock this morning. That wind has pushed to a westerly wind, and I'm just basically allowing everything to dry off now, and then I'm going to get packed up and get home. I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to see my girls and have the evening with them, and then day off tomorrow before I go back to work on Tuesday. Can have a day off with them as well. So yeah, sorry there hasn't been more fish to show you, and apart from really the rig, there's not really much I can tell you. I've baited exactly the same as how I usually do. I've eased off at times because I thought I'm putting out too much bait when I'm not getting any fish, but I've stuck to my guns. I've fished the same spots. I've cast a showing fish. The 3210 came from a showing fish, and you know, the 1910 came from that spot that I'd been baiting. I was really hoping that they'd got their heads down on it and they were going to come back. Unfortunately not. It's ticked off a few more targets for this year though, especially with that 32 common. It's ticked off 2 more targets for us from this year, and I've come back to Oxlease to catch on here, because last time I fished it I blanked, and I've done that on all waters apart from one that I've fished this year. This year I've visited Kingfisher Lake at Bluebell Complex. That was where I've blanked again, so I still need to go back there and catch. But then I've revisited B2 and caught. I've revisited St John's and caught. I've revisited Swangy Lakes in Norfolk and caught, and Oxlease and caught. So I'm happy that I've been able to come back to those waters and catch, with some stunning fish as well. 4 out of St John's, 1 from Swangy, but it was a 20, real long common. I had 3 from B2, and then I've had 2 from Oxlease. So it's, you know, it's been a good year. Whether I managed to fluke a session in November, I don't know. But apart from that, this could potentially be the last video for this year. The other thing I'd like to say is, obviously I moved on to Vortex for this session, and it's a lovely bait, really, really nice. It's a pre-digested sort of maple bait, and I've been happy to use it. I haven't felt as though that it's been the bait that you know, has put them off. I think it's a bait that they'll happily eat in here, and they'll happily eat everywhere. So I've still got some more of that, so if I do get a session in November, I will certainly be using it there. For next year, I don't know whether I'll go back onto the krill, stick with the Vortex, or maybe go on to the Manila. But I'm certainly going to stick with sticky baits, because the quality of their baits is ridiculously high, and I'm really happy using them. And it's shown as this year with the fish that I've caught. So be it, I have caught some fish on zigs, which I've got to thank Mark Pitchers again for that, you know, going through zig fishing with me, and distance fishing, especially with the fish on Manor, because I've also caught on there this year. You know, and that was my first time on that water. That was when I came off from B2 when fishing with Mark, and then I moved over to Manor and had one from there. So you know, it's been a good year, new PB to boot. You know, really, really happy. Sorry that I haven't been able to do a live chat as well. on this video. I know I said I was going to do a couple, but my data's been there's been no data signal. I've had signal to be able to text, but no signal to be able to do anything like get on Facebook. So if people have been asking me, I'll respond to any questions if you've had any questions whilst I've been here when I get home. But until then, really, it's thank you very much for watching. The competition is still going. Last time I looked, I needed 40 more likes to get up to the 400 mark to then give away the second impact spot, and that competition is still running. So, you know, please get liking and sharing. You know, I'm doing these for my own fishing because I have a love for fishing, but at the same time I hope you do get some enjoyment out of what you watch, and that you can learn some things along the way. I'm by no far you know, the best angler on the planet at all, but I would like to help, and I have a love for this sport that you all have, and I'm sure that if you can help in any way, you would do. So, you know, if you could please like and share and get my page likes up, that's brilliant. I'm not looking for anything else, it's just my own page. I'm always here to answer any questions that you like, and in some respect I'm always here for, and I'm always up for a session if you do want to go fishing with me, as long as I'm able to and the kids allow it and work allows it, obviously. So thank you very much, and hopefully there might be a session in November. If there isn't, cheers for watching, and I'll see you soon. So I'm going to go through how to tie the rig that I've been using on this session. It is a take on the DF rig that is generally used with a fluorocarbon, but in this case I'm actually using a camotex soft coated braid. So you can see this one's one that's been finished. There's a liner on there. I'm using a wafter rig on it. It's 10 inches long, anti-tangle sleeve as well, and both hook holes so far that I've had with this have been at least an inch back in the bottom lip, really firm. There was no chance of them coming off, so really happy with that. So to tie this up, we're going to need some camotex soft, and I like to take off a good length around about sort of 15 inches 16 inches, snip that off, and I'm using an Armour Point SR hook in size 6, and we're going to tie the whipping knot to the hook. So with the whipping knot, with this tag end here is the bit that we're going to pull. So we're going to create a big loop, and the other tag end here is actually going to be snipped off, so we aren't worried about that. It's this bit here that's the bit that's going to be pulled. So to tie the whipping knot with your big loop, you're actually whipping it round the hook and round this tag end as well. Okay, now when you're whipping it round, you must be able to create an X so that you're coming back on yourself, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to pull this tag end, and that's going to tighten up, and that's going to pull the loop in as well. Make sure that you keep a good firm grip of that loop, and that's going to pull that in. Okay, so now that we've got that tag end snipped off, we are going to create the D. We need a micro rig swivel on there. That goes onto that line. The beeps aren't liners I'll take, it's just it's very windy, but I like to keep my alarms on high sensitivity. You're going to pass the tag end through the eye of the hook, and then we're going to create just a knotless knot with this. So I like to have the whipping knot opposite the barb of the hook, okay, for now, and then because we're creating a knotless knot, it's going to pull this line a little bit tighter, so you want a little bit more for that D than you would usually have, okay, because it's going to pull it a little bit tighter. So that's ample, and then just tie a simple knotless knot. 5 turns I do, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then pass back through the eye of the hook, like so. Pull it tight, and as you can see, it's pulled that a little bit tighter. But then if you push that D, and you can adjust the knot, the whipping knot down here to how you would like it sat. But that's sat opposite the barb. There's just enough space there as well for freedom of movement on that. Okay. Next thing we need is shrink tubing. So I take, when you get your pieces of shrink tubing, you should get 3 amounts out of this, and you're going to take your fine baiting needle, so your braid needle, and pass it halfway through, and then place it back through the hole you've just made, and this is going to create the liner, and we'll pass the line through, and then I want this liner all the way over this knot. So over she goes, and then you must make sure that your line is exiting straight. So if you need to twist it a little bit, that's good. They might seem excessive here, so we're going to halve that, and then we're going to steam that down. Now when we steam it, if you pull the line straight down while steaming it, you'll end up with that kind of curve in it, and you've still got this little bit here, but it's this liner that I think, and I don't pull this over the palm of my hand, I actually pull it over my fingers, okay, because this is the little finger's a little bit more like a lip, and it's able to get in there whichever way you do it, and it's just going to hook every single time. Pass it over, and it's just turning, flipping either way. So we'll steam that down in a bit, but for now, just to finish this rig off, get your anti-tangle sleeve, feed that on, and then we want 10 inches. So, and give yourself a little bit more. So if you go into 10 inches, which is there, by the time that that's curved in, you're probably going to lose about ½ an inch. So I like to just give it ½ an inch extra for that curve, and we're going to tie a figure of 8 loop knot in that one. So as though you were tying a loop knot, and then twist that, pass that bit through, wet it down, and then I just use a puller tool just to pull that nice and tight. Like so. Trim the tag end off, and then all we need to do now is steam that down, add 2 blobs of putty to it, and then like I say, that's what you're going to finish off with. Okay, so 10 inches, attach your bait using the bait floss and the blob method. 2 little blobs of putty, and she's ready to go. And the way that she'll sink is when she comes down, because of how critically balanced that is, the anti-tangle sleeve is going to push away. That first blob of putty I make a little bit heavier, so that's the first to go, then your second, and then that's just going to land nice like that. And like I say, both fish that I've had have been nailed on it, been really happy with it. The other one that I've experimented with is this is actually using a maggot clip, but I would also use it with a micro rig swivel as well, and it's this. Okay, so again, same whipping knot, but rather than the tag end that's coming off this point here, I actually pull this tag end tight. So you would tie your whipping knot with the hook the other way around. Okay, pull this tag end tight, and then you're actually creating your D with that tag end there, so it's more in the middle. Yeah, and this to me I think creates a little bit more like a KD kind of style D rig. There's a little bit of movement, it means that the bait is in the middle of the hook. Same shrink tubing, same knotless knot again, 10 inches, 2 blobs of putty, anti-tangle sleeve, but because that's in the middle there, I haven't unfortunately had a take on this yet, but what I'm hoping is that because they pick that up, as soon as they pick that bait up and they're getting it, that hook's just going to turn, and it's just going to create that again. So again, because of the bait, it's just going to hook in. So like I said, we're going to attempt that one. It's just a little bit different. It's just more sort of the bait exiting the side of the hook, but the bait's they're going to come across it, bait's going to go in, and that hook point's ready